Hi guys, this is going to be a little teaching session. I'd like to be able to have you right here by me teach like I would if I were, like over the years I've taught people to do things, but I get questions every once in a while. I got an interesting question the other day from a guy on, he's cutting shapes and he couldn't figure out why he broke his router bit. He said he was just dropping into the board to cut a shape, and the thing jerked on him, and he broke his router bit. Well, that's going to happen, but I'm going to tell you what to do to prevent that from happening. You know, when you're paying 15 or 20 bucks for a router bit, you don't want to just throw it away. It was brand new. So what I'm doing is I'm going to show you. I've got these spiral router bits. It's just a 1/4 inch spiral router bit, and I use these for cutting shapes when I'm cutting a shape. So I'll show you how I'm going to do that. Now the shape that I'm going to show you is basically, you can cut any shape, but I'm going to show you without turning the router on. I'm going to show you this. This is our small ribbon pattern, and I'm going to show you 2 or 3 things on this that you need to know. I may have touched on them on previous videos, but it's important that you know this when you're cutting any kind of a shape. And again, if I had you right here beside me, I could go over this over and over so that you would understand it. But let me begin by saying there's 2 things that you really need to do. I'm not going to turn the router on, so I'm just going to use my hand as my hammer. And to begin with,
your hand has been used as a hammer before.
Yeah, I've used
but
it.
I won't even go into that.
Okay. When you're cutting a shape, be sure that your pattern is not right up close to the edge. You don't want it up like this, close to the edge. Sometimes you think you're going to save material by doing that, but you're going to ruin more signs than you possibly can imagine. So whenever you're cutting, be sure that your pattern is down at least 3/4 of an inch away from the edge or the end of your pattern. Even if you're at the end, you'll find that when
Can you show them on the front edge, Dad? Because that's hidden by the camera. Can you show them? Yeah, there. Can you show them on that front edge away from you?
Yeah, just be sure that you don't have your pattern close to the edge. Be sure that you have at least 3/4 of an inch all the way around your pattern, away from the edge of your board. The reason for that is when you're coming around your board with your tool running, if you're too close to the edge, it'll just break out there and you'll lose your sign. So then you'd have to move it, you'd have to scrap that board. So what I do is, if I've got a small sign like this, small pattern that I'm cutting, and I've got a 6 inch, I'll put it right in the middle, so that I've got plenty of material. We just had a major malfunction in our lighting here, but I've got it.
But we're going to keep rolling.
Yeah, we're gonna just keep the camera.
We don't edit. We just don't do that.
So the main thing is that you have plenty of room outside of your template, so that you don't get a chance for the board to break out when you come around the edge of it. Now, having said that, let me show you the template guide that I use. This is what I use for a 1/4 inch. Now this is a 1/4 inch router bit. The outside diameter is of course larger than a 1/4 inch. It's about 3/8 of an inch. Not quite, but about 3/8 of an inch. There's about a 10 thousandths clearance. This is 250 thousandths. So the inside of this is about 270 thousandths, which gives you about 10 thousandths clearance all the way around on that cutter. This is probably the smallest size that you want to use with a 1/4 inch router bit. Reason for that is because it gives you good clearance, and there's about a 10 thousandths in there. If you do get some deflection, there's about 10 thousandths in there. So let me set this aside for a second.
Can you describe what deflection is, Dad? Because some of these people may not know.
When your router bit goes down, it's solid, and if it moves just a little bit, if something happens and your router bit moves, that's deflection. So
Okay.
I'm going to show you, this is the template guide that I use when I'm cutting these patterns out, and as most of you know, this comes in two pieces. It fits into your router base, and your router base has to have this little groove. It has to be the right router base. It can't be just a hole that this drops through. I've been through that before. But it has to fit. It has to fit in this little shoulder that's in there. So when you see this template guide drop in, and that's as far as it's going to go. It just drops in like that. This particular one has got a little crud in there that it shouldn't have. I didn't clean it out, but it's all right. It drops in so that it's perfectly flush. This is perfectly flush, and then on the back side, this is a knurled nut. Now, can you see what I'm doing there on camera?
Yeah, yeah, I got it. It's
Okay.
really plain.
This knurled nut goes on the back. I'll go ahead and start it now. I'll turn it back up so you can see it. Now, can you see that, son?
Uh-huh. Plain
Okay,
as
now
day.
this tightens up on there. And it's important that you get that tightened all the way. And once you get it where it's finger snug, then I have a pair of pliers that I use. I put on there and I just gently turn it until it's snug. It doesn't have to be super tight, but just snug so that the vibration of the router as you're using it is not going to cause it to come loose. So once you get that stylus in there, then you put this on your router. Well, I'm not going to put it on my router, but I'm going to show you what I would do if you had it on the router. So again, we go put the pattern on there. Now, this is absolutely critical. When you get ready to drop into your board, am I centered on the board there, son? Can you see what I'm doing?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I can
When you
absolutely.
get ready to drop into the board, assuming you have your router in here, your router is turned on, the router bit is running, and you have it set. I'll show you that in a minute. You have it set. Don't try to muscle this thing and just drop into it like that. If you do, it's going to jerk and it's going to break your router bit. And at 15, 20 bucks a piece on the router bits, you don't want to do that. Now, when you get ready to set onto that pattern, doesn't matter what shape it is, what you want to do is you want to, what we call, you ground the edge of your router base. You put that down with your hand on the board and your hand on the router base, and the router bit is coming out here. You ground that, and then you slowly tip in and you plunge in. That's really what you have to do. If you try to just drop it in like that, it's going to grab, and I don't care who you are, or how big you are, how strong you are, you can't hold it. And when that happens, you're going to break a router bit. Almost, 8 times out of 10, the router bit is going to break.
Or worse,
Well,
if you lose control of the router
yeah, if
and
you
it
could lose
grabs.
control of the router and
Yeah.
hurt yourself. But
Yeah.
the point is that if you do it the way I'm teaching you right now, and I've taught hundreds of people this, I've taught people this in my shop that I've trained, there's only one way to do it, and that's you ground the edge of the router base with the router running, then you slowly lower it down so that you're flat on the pattern. It doesn't matter what size the pattern is. Then it's very important that you pull it in slowly to where you're in against the pattern, and then you start cutting. And all you're doing is you're following the pattern with that stylus. And just remember one thing, if you can see what I'm doing now, I'm trying to keep one hand on the pattern as I go around, and I very carefully keep that stylus up against the pattern regardless of the shape. And if you'll notice, I'm going counterclockwise. That is, I'm going in this direction. I'm going around the outside of the pattern in the counterclockwise direction. It's always very important to do that. The reason, the primary reason, is because your cutter is turning in this direction, and as you go around, it will have a tendency to pull itself into the pattern. If you go the other way, it has a tendency to it'll want to wander out through the board. So it's always very important to go in a counterclockwise direction and just take it nice and slow and easy. keep the router base flat, keep the stylus or the template guide, keep that in against your pattern, and try to keep one hand, whenever possible, keep one hand on the pattern and the board so that you have control. If you hold like this, you don't have control. If you keep the heel of your hand, if you keep that on the pattern, you'll maintain control. So that's very, very important, and that's primarily the way that you cut out one of these patterns. And it doesn't matter the shape of the pattern, doesn't matter the size of the pattern. If you'll follow these simple rules that I just taught you, if you'll always try to do that, with a little practice, you'll get to where you can cut these patterns out. You'll never lose a pattern. You'll never lose a board after you've cut it, because everything is well within the margin of breakout where you won't have to worry about that. Now, there are 2 or 3 other things that I'm going to go over. I'm still going to keep the pattern here, but once in a while, as you notice, this is less than 3/4 of an inch. So when you have your router bit set up in your router, you're going to set it so that it just barely comes through. Can you see this, son?
Yeah, I'm zooming in right now,
You're
Dad.
going to see that it just barely comes through, and this is the depth you want to set your router bit. Now I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. Now if you're cutting on a thicker board, for instance, say if you have to cut 1 3/4 or 2 inch, well, you've only got 1 inch of cutting fluid on this router bit. So you can't cut that in one shot. You can't cut it in one cut. You can't get all the way through simply because you don't have enough fluid on your router bit to go all the way through. So let me show you what I do in a case like that. And I'll move some of this stuff aside a little bit here. I'm going to show you, have you got this router bit, I got the router motor
On camera?
on camera?
Yeah, yes
All
I do.
right. So what I'm going to do is when I put the router bit in, now notice what I do. I put it all the way in and I tighten it up. I'm not going to tighten it up, but what I would do is I take the wrench. This has got a lock on it, so I would take the wrench and I would tighten that up, get it good and tight. The router bit is all the way into the router, okay? Now I'm going to show you how to set the depth on this. Now you see what I'm doing with the router. Can you see that, son?
Absolutely.
Okay, what I'm doing with the router, the pattern, I think I'll turn that over. Get a new. Now the pattern is set so that it is on the base of the router, okay? Now by going up or down with the router bit, you can get it to where it just does come through. Just barely comes through, and that's all you need, is just for it to come through so that it'll cut through. And then you lock it down, and then if you're cutting, you can come in with this, drop it in, and since you know that this dimension is just enough to cut through the board, you know that you're all right. It's going to cut all the way through the board. This board is about 5/8. You've got a little over a 5/8 router bit sticking out there, so it's going to cut all the way through. But if you're cutting a heavier piece of material, you would want, let me say this, let me set this up. What you would do is you would go ahead and cut it, just the same as if it were 5/8. You would go ahead and make that cut, but as you can see here, you're not all the way through. But you've got a dimension from here to here that you have to cut. So you might want to drop that down. You might want to take this in 3 cuts, but you could take it in 2. So if you drop this down, loosen this up, drop it down to where you're just about at the maximum, say about 7/8. You got a 1 inch cutting fluid, so if you're about 7/8 there, you lock it in, and you cut it at that depth. Okay, that's all you need to do. Then after you cut it at that depth, you're going to have a line all the way around it, but you're not going to take the pattern off. You're going to turn your router off, loosen the base. Let me take this off. You're going to loosen the router bit, and you're going to stick it back in, but you're only going to drop it. You're not going to go clear to the, well, let me drop it down and then pull it back out about a 1/2 inch. Don't get it out too far. Let me show you this. So you want to have at least this much of it in the router. If you don't have at least a 1/2 inch of the bit in that router, you're going to get deflection and you're going to break a router bit. It's just, number one, it's important that you always keep enough of your router bit in the collet so that it doesn't come out and it doesn't come loose. And that's really all you need to do, is you put it in there, then the same as you did before. If it was all the way down, you'd tighten it up with a wrench. Then once you put your base back on, you stick it through there far enough. It's not quite far enough right yet, but it's sticking through there far enough that you can make it. Normally you'd be able to cut all the way through a real thick board. There may be times that you might have to make some adjustments. You don't want to have that router bit out too far, but you want to have it out far enough that you can cut through the material that you're cutting. And all this is just kind of rule of thumb as to what you can do to make sure it works for you. Take this down all the way, and now you have it where it's almost all the way through. And that's really what you have to do. You have to make this in different cuts. This should be your second or third cut. We don't recommend that you make a lot of cuts with real heavy material, but this is just a way to show you that if you do want to cut some thicker material, you can do it in steps like this. It's difficult to do. It takes a little practice to do it, and you have to be extremely careful because your router bit is sticking out there far enough that that it could cause you problems. But once you get that first cut made, then this part of the router bit that has no cutting edge will ride in that groove. So it's still reasonably safe. It's not going to break out or anything. It's still reasonably safe. But you have to realize that you're making sawdust, and it will fill that groove up. So you just have to be careful. It takes a little practice. I've been doing it for 45 years, and my son's been doing it since he was a teenager. So it's not a difficult thing to do, but it does take a little practice. And once you know these little things that I'm teaching today, once you learn these, it'll just make it so much easier for you. But the main thing I wanted to touch on, not so much this depth thing, which is it's good to know. The main thing I wanted to touch on was how when your router bit is grounded, when your router base is grounded, that you won't be jerking when you drop in your patterns, because most of you are going to cut your shapes out of boards that are about this thick or 3/4 of an inch thick. You can make those in one cut easy, no problem at all. So the main thing is make sure that your pattern has got a 3/4 of an inch at least all the way around it. Make sure that your stylus is tight and set up right in your base, and make sure that you follow the directions that I've already taught you on the base. And once you do that, once you learn those few little things that I've just taught you, it's the same thing that I've taught people that are in my shop, that I've taught them how to do it. So just consider yourself one of my students in my shop, or a new guy, and I give you the best instructions I can give you, and go over this video. Don't just see it once and say you got it. Go over this video several times so that you'll understand what I'm telling you. Once you understand it and it's kind of locked in, you just won't have any problems at all. You'll be able to teach somebody else.
Well, and we will also reference the other videos that we have on the channel.
Yeah, I do have
And-
some other videos that I made on cutting shapes. You'll actually see me using the router to cut the shapes. We'll reference on this video, we'll reference to those other videos where you can go and learn something that I didn't mention on this video, but I mentioned on the other one simply because I had the router on and I was doing the cutting. So we'll reference those other video numbers on this
Yeah.
video so you'll be able to refer to them.
Okay.
So that's really all I wanted. That's really all I wanted to go over today. You know, I could sit and go on for an hour on different things that I want you to learn, that I want to teach you, that I've learned, and I've taught my son, and I've taught a lot of other people, and I want to try to teach everybody that's just starting out everything that I can possibly teach you. Well, I've still got the time to teach you, but that's all I want to do on this video. So. Now my son has something on our new program, live online training sessions. Eric is gonna come back on. He's gonna turn the camera off now, but he's gonna come back on, tell you a little bit more about our live training sessions. So stay tuned and watch this video. Thanks for watching. And if you have questions or if I didn't make something clear, just send us an email. Let us know. And I'll try to make it up on the next one. So, see you next time.
Hey guys, all right, welcome back. Dad, thanks for that great job you did just going over all those details on cutting. You did a terrific job. Okay, so I promised you last Friday, and actually, sorry again, we're running a little bit late getting this video out. It is going to get to you on Friday, and that's when we're filming, like Friday afternoon. So. As soon as we get this done, I'll get in there and get it posted and get it out to all you guys. So we still made it within Friday, but I like to have them done on Thursday so we can post them early on Friday. But anyway, things have been a little bit hectic with the daily videos, the coffee and questions, which I'm absolutely having a ball with. Thank you guys for all of the great comments and questions. Keep the questions coming. We're just having so much fun with those. So, I promised you more information on our live training sessions. That's what we're calling them, live training sessions. So we got it pretty much all set up. The live training session is going to be a week from tomorrow. So it's actually going to be August 1st. And it's going to be from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock Arizona time. So if you're on the East Coast, take that into account. I guess East Coast it would be like 11 to 12.
AM or PM?
AM, yes, AM. Thank you for helping me with that, Dad. I don't stay up that late for sure. So, so that's when it's going to be Saturday, August 1st. Going to be 1 hour long. So here's what I need you to do. You're going to see just about now, right up in this area, you're going to see my personal email. I need you to copy and paste that, send me an email with your name and your email address because I have to personally send you an invite so that when it's time to get on to the webinar, boom, you can just click on that and it'll link you right up. So you need to send me an email with your name and email address. I guess I'll have your email address if you send me an email. So don't forget to do that, guys, because otherwise you won't be able to log in. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing is you're going to be able to, if you don't have a computer and you still want to log in and listen, there'll be an 800 number where you can just dial your phone and dial an 800 number and you'll be able to hear the whole thing. You just won't have any video if you're not at your computer. Let's say you're away from your computer and you've got your cell phone or even a landline, you'll have an 800 number that you can dial in and you can still log in. That'll be on the invite that you get from me. So that's kind of cool. As far as the subject, what we're going to do it on, it's still kind of up in the air. We got a couple things. I think it's going to be a blast. We're going to have a lot of fun with it. But still when you send me that email, give me some suggestions of what you like because it's kind of up in the air. There's 2 or 3 different things. But send me what you guys would like to see me do if you want to see me do whatever. But I'd like it to be a demonstration thing. So I want to be running the router, the sander, something. So
This isn't going to be interactive. They can't get involved in it. They can view it and that's it. On this,
no, they can.
on this first one,
They
right?
can get involved. That's a good question and I hadn't put that down. They can type questions. They can actually, we'll be able to, if they're on their computer, they'll be able to chat and type questions right while I'm doing whatever I'm doing or you're doing whatever. They'll be able, interactively live, be able to chat with us and type a question if there's something that I need to do over again, or if you have a question I'm not answering.
If
So,
we
yeah.
get too many questions, though, we may not be able to handle them all.
Yeah,
but-
you know, depending on the questions. Again, this first one is limited to 100 people. So it's the first 100 people that, now going beyond this, we'll have more. But for this first one, we only have available 100 slots. So get your invitation or your emails to me right away. But yes, those 100 people will be able to type questions. So we'll answer as many questions as we can in the hour and still get our, get our demo in. So yeah, but that's
So
a
it's
good
going to
question.
last about an hour then.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping for. We're, as long-winded as we get. I got to go teach a martial arts seminar in the afternoon, so it has to be in an hour. So, so that was that. Okay, so if for whatever reason you send me an invitation, you get the invite, but for whatever reason you can't watch it live, it's going to be, you'll get an email within about an hour after the event is over and it'll be recorded where you can click on it and you can go watch the recording.
So it's going to be archived
It will, yeah, this recording, it will be archived exactly. But
on our website.
there'll be a link to it. It's not going to be, it's actually going to be at GoToWebinar. That's where the video is going to reside. But there'll be a link to it on one of our page, on our makeawoodsign.com page. So they'll be able to link to it. But they'll get an invitation. They'll get an automatic email that will give them the link to it about an hour after the event is over.
Good.
So they won't even have to go look for it. It'll be in their inbox, in their email. Okay, and then the last point is obviously everyone for this first one is invited, up to 100. But the biggest news that we have is that when we first started talking about doing this, we were going to make it as a benefit for premium members. Well, what we've decided to do, because of just, I guess, the way we are, we're actually going to make every one of these available to everybody. The only limitation on this first one is only 100. Beyond that, starting in September, but it's starting in September, everybody can come in up to 1,000. And so I don't imagine there'll be more than 1,000. There might be, but up to 1,000. So from now on going forward, this is not going to be a benefit to the premium members. We'll find other things to give you premium members, but from starting out right now, everybody's going to be invited to every live event every month going forward, unless something changes. But that's the way it's going to be as of right now. Dad and I had a long talk about it, and we kind of mulled it over, but these are going to be so much fun. We're going to have so much fun. We don't want to limit anybody from having the availability to these. So they'll not only will you be able to log in every month and watch these, whether you're a premium member or not, but it'll be on a page that everybody can get to as far as archived on makeawoodsign.com. And you'll get more information on that. I'll have to go in there and change that. So yeah, we're really excited about it, guys. So definitely send me those emails and put in there your name and what you want, what you'd like to see as a subject. If we can't get to it this month, maybe it'll be next month or the month after. So definitely give us some ideas on subject. Also on the coffee and questions, remember the coffee and questions, you didn't get one today because you don't get one on Fridays or Sundays, every other day. So you get the coffee and questions 5 days a week. So you'll be getting another one tomorrow. So keep those questions coming. I've got a whole bunch of them, but you know I'm doing them 5 days a week. So keep those questions coming and comments and again, thank you guys so much. We're just having so much fun.
You're gonna try to find time to squeeze in a little work in between your
Yeah,
videos?
I'll find a way to make some sawdust somewhere
Okay.
somehow. Yeah, well, I'm up at 4 a.m. every morning working on stuff, so I'll work some work in eventually so I can actually make $1 or so. All right, you guys, have a great Friday evening, and we'll see you tomorrow on Coffee and Questions.